David Andrews doing what a captain does, doing the New England Patriots a solid, while Nikhil Harry's days in Foxborough continue to be numbered less and less. I'm Mike Debate. You're about to be locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful, and thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage and also your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On Patriots free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So download, subscribe to, and follow Locked On Patriots wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to smash that subscribe button on YouTube. I'm your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for Pat's Country of Sports Illustrated. I am also your host of Locked On Patriots, which, of course, is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Folks, because it's your team every day, that means your questions, comments, and feedback are always welcomed. Very much appreciated. Share that feedback, send it to the internet by reaching out to me and following me on Twitter at MDABATENFL. While you're out there showing some love to that Twitterverse, please be sure to follow the Locked On Patriots account as well at LO_Patriots. Pats fans, hope you all had a wonderful Independence Day holiday, and we are back here on Locked On Patriots, and several things in the news for your New England Patriots coming up. It might be a little bit of a lull in the action for the Pats on the field, but definitely not when it comes to your New England Patriots coverage. Training camp starting on July 27th. New England Patriots, obviously, their veterans will be reporting on the 26th. Rookies report a little earlier. They'll be in town on the 19th. Those dates are coming closer and closer. Be sure to check out Patriots.com, folks, for all the latest information on in-camp policies, where you can see the Patriots, and which of those practices will be open to the public. And it's always the best time of year for sports fans, for football fans especially. Definitely great to see your team up close and personal. I'll be there if you want to stop by and say hello. I would love to be able to say hello to all of you out there who make Locked On Patriots a daily part of your Pats coverage and help to keep the show going. So it's always my honor and always my pleasure to interact with all of you. But most of all, you want to see the team on the field. Well, we're getting right down to business, folks. One of those players you may not be seeing on the field that long is wide receiver Nikhil Harry. And I'll pause for a moment of silence, which I know you all are broken up about that. I catch enough on here about being a Nikhil apologist. But word out of his own agent's mouth seems to indicate that the Patriots and Harry are trying to move forward in jettisoning the enigmatic but talented wide receiver right out of town here in New England. Obviously, we could see the handwriting on the walls with Nikhil earlier this year. When the Patriots traded for DeVante Parker, all we heard was Parker's going to be a part of this offense. Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, we knew those guys were going to be heavily involved. Nelson Aguilar, some trade rumors surrounding him a little bit, but he's been having a solid mini camp, had a solid OTA, been working out a lot with Mac Jones. I think that indicates that Nelson is at least here for one more year. They're going to try to do their best to make it work. Even guys like Trey Nixon, Christian Wilkerson, they're getting in on the act, and they may have a chance to make this roster as well. But almost no one seems to think that Nikhil will be on the roster. Didn't participate in offensive workouts, didn't participate in OTA, was available at minicamp, but was spending an awful lot of time with some of the second and third stringers. Usually, that's not a good sign for him. But his agent, Jamal Tucson, went on NFL Network earlier this week, and he spoke to the representatives there, basically saying that he understands what's at stake this season, meaning Nikhil. This is Jamal Tucson's words exactly, and that he's doing his part to make sure that he will be ready. Additionally, he said that he's had positive dialogue with the Patriots about exploring trade possibilities for Harry, and that positive dialogue is opening up and encouraging more by the day. Folks, it always is a possibility that Nikhil ends up back in New England. After all, we went through this last year. Nikhil Harry's agent went out and requested a trade. Everyone predicted that he'd be out of here by the end of training camp. Well, not only was Nikhil on the roster at the end of training camp, he spent the entire season with the Patriots. Unfortunately, there was a stint on IR. He did have that injury in preseason, and really he was used mostly as an inline blocker, more so than a receiving threat. If he goes to another team, I think that may how he's going to be utilized. But don't forget, there was a first round grade on Nikhil for a reason. He definitely has the tools, the capabilities to be a capable receiver. I just don't think it's here in New England. And I've been one of the more vocal supporters of Nikhil Harry, much to the chagrin of a lot of you out there. I had some confidence and some hope for the guy, but even I have come around and basically understand that this is just not a fit for him here. If the Patriots jettison him, don't expect a whole lot in return. What the Patriots will be getting in return is a roster spot freed up for someone like Nixon or someone like Wilkerson to be able to slide into that spot if, in fact, the Patriots give him the opportunity to do so. And, of course, drafting Tyquan Thornton in the second round definitely indicates that the Patriots have much higher hopes for Tyquan moving forward than for Nikhil. He's kind of had his shot, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out. This may be a blemish on the record of Bill Belichick in terms of drafting, especially when it comes to drafting wide receivers. But I can tell you there was a lot of excitement in the draft room when Nikhil was chosen. Just didn't live up to expectations, folks. So ultimately, heard Jamal Toussaint's words. I think there's probably a little more substance to them this year rather than just wishful thinking as it was in 2021. I don't expect Nikhil to be on the roster when the Patriots make their final cut down shortly before the start of the regular season at the end of training camp and at the end of preseason. That being said, where's he going to go? That could be a conversation for another day, and we will explore any and all opportunities for Nikhil as he moves forward and attempts to continue his career, possibly, I say possibly because it hasn't happened yet, but most likely in another uniform. Well, Patriots fans, one guy that will be returning next year and possibly beyond is, oh, Captain, my captain, the man in the middle himself, David Andrews. Signed an extension last year to come back to the Patriots. This year, doing the Patriots a solid. They needed some cap space in order to get their top draft picks under contract. David Andrews was the one that stepped up and really made it happen. Restructures his contract. Those numbers are out. And we'll also take a look at David's year last year and tell you why it's not just maybe a one-year rental with David Andrews. He's still got a lot left in the tank, and I expect him to honor all of the years that are remaining on his contract. And hopefully what he did in terms of restructuring may make that job a little easier. How? Well, we'll discuss that in just a moment when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues. But first, folks, don't forget, summer is already here. The 4th of July is in the books, but there's still a whole lot of summer left. You want to get out, you want to see the world, you want to be able to enjoy those warm summer temperatures. Well, if you're going, you have to get some food on the go. And the best place to do that is with our friends over at Built Bar. They're the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations, outings, any type of summer trip. You want a Built Bar alongside with you. Throw them in your bags, in your kids' backpacks. Built Bar even sells small coolers, so that way the chocolate doesn't melt. It really does work, and these are amazing products. Make sure everyone has a bar so you're always fueled for your summer adventures. And the best part about Built Bars, folks, is they are healthy and they're delicious. No more sacrificing delicious food for health. With Built Bar, you can have both, and it's easy. All you have to do is go to built.com and order now. Every single one of their delicious products that's covered in chocolate is 100% real chocolate. No fabrication here. It's the real deal. So whether you love the traditional Built Bars, the Built Puffs, or the new Built Granolas, definitely check them out. I'm a fan of all of them. Haven't had one yet that I would say that I don't like. I love every product they put out. With Built Bar, you can eat healthy and you can actually enjoy doing it. So don't delay. Do it today. Visit built.com and enter the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your next order at built.com. That's promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order at built.com. Patriots fans, it is always an honor, always a privilege to bring you pre-camp coverage here of your New England Patriots right here on the Locked On Patriots podcast. And in the previous segment, we basically came to the realization that wide receiver Nikhil Harry will not be with the Patriots that much longer. Again, I know everyone's waiting for that breaking news to come up that it actually has happened. So until it does, we have to treat it as a hypothetical. Well, one thing that's not a hypothetical is that the Patriots 2022 draft class is now completely under contract. Cole Strange, Tyquan Thornton, Bailey Zappi, they were the last holdouts. But it wasn't so much that they were holding out. The Patriots really needed to clear some salary cap space in order to get these guys under contract. And to do that, they needed a trusted veteran. They needed an old friend. They had to go to their Luca Brasi in this case, folks. And you know I love my Godfather references. They went to David Andrews. And David Andrews steps up to the plate as a true captain does and does the team a solid. Restructuring the contract actually on the 24th of June, creating $2.1 million in 2022 cap space. They convert $3.15 million of his compensation into a signing bonus. And the reason why we're revisiting this today on Wednesday is because ESPN's Mike Reese, the unquestioned best in the business, released the actual annual figures of what David Andrews' contract is going to look like this year. And not just this year, but beyond into 2023 and into 2024 as well. He restructures the deal. His contract, his cap space charge now is going to be $4.275 million as opposed to $6.375 million that it would have been earlier. A much bigger cap hit in this year as opposed to next year. Patriots kicking the can down the road a little bit here. David Andrews' cap charge is going to be $7.175 million in 2023, $7.425 million in 2024, but the previous cap charge on each of those was $5.875 million. So in the subsequent years, David's taking a little bit more of a cap charge. However, this year definitely gives them some flexibility. And I think it just speaks to the type of guy that David Andrews is. When the Patriots were down, they needed some help. David actually is going to be the guy to step up to the plate. And he's been doing that. He really has been doing that all of his career here. Whether you talk about on the field or off the field, David is truly one of the leaders in that locker room and the leaders on the field. Signed with the team as in 2015 as an undrafted free agent. And David has become such a fixture here and such a stalwart along the offensive line that I think a lot of us forget. The strong fans definitely remember, but a lot of us forget from time to time that he was an undrafted rookie free agent. He wasn't drafted out of the University of Georgia. And since the time that he signed on the dotted line, you want to talk about reliability, this guy has been the pillar of reliability with the exception of one season that was definitely a difficulty where he had to sit out with blood clots in his lungs. Scary, scary situation there. But started 86 regular season games, 96 if you include the postseason. Excellent protection for New England's quarterbacks, whether it be Tom Brady, whether it be Jimmy Garoppolo, whether it be, any of the guys that had an opportunity to come in and really, provide that type of protection. He definitely was able to do that and has done so very well, whether it be Cam Newton, whether it be, Mac Jones now. He's definitely earned his stripes and been one of the better centers in the conference and, in my opinion, in the league. New England absolutely adores the guy from a locker room standpoint, from a teammate standpoint. He's a five-time team captain, continues to serve in that capacity, even when he was sidelined in 2019 after being diagnosed with blood clots in his lungs. But that injury wasn't quite, as dramatic in 2021 as the one that he had last year. Obviously, Andrews was apparently dealing with a shoulder injury, required pretty swift attention upon the completion of the season. Right away went under the knife in off-season surgery, torn labrum for the captain, but he was able to come back from it and really, I think, proved himself to be extremely durable and extremely gutsy for his performance on the field last year, dealing with a torn labrum. But, Andrews always continues to show his progress, and he continues to show that he is still one of the better centers in the league, in the conference, as I previously stated. Only allowed one sack in 610 pass blocking snaps. He finishes 2021 as Pro Football Focus's fifth highest graded center. I understand there's a science to that. I think he should be a little higher on the list, but who am I to argue with stats? That's still an incredible feat for a guy that wasn't even drafted into this league and really continues to prove that he is one of the best in terms of accommodating the Patriots' needs on the field, but also off the field. Um, when it comes to what David Andrews can do, his most indelible mark, folks, is always made by the leadership, the perseverance that he embodies each and every day, whether it be on the field or whether it be in the locker room. Andrews leads by example, and he plays his role as assigned to the best of his ability. He's always there to make sure that his quarterback is taken care of, not just in the plays, but also in between plays, also on the sideline. David was one of those guys that popped right into action last year and got right in the middle of the action to protect quarterback Mac Jones when he looked like he might be under fire in a couple of games. Always did the same to Brady, always did the same for Newton. One of the great guys in the business. I remember when Cam scored his first touchdown. One of the things that David wanted to make sure was that he got the ball. He wanted him to feel ingratiated and make sure that he was a part of the team. Just the type of guy that he is. And it doesn't surprise me that he's the one to step up and restructure his deal. And the Patriots needed it. That's one of the big reasons why Cole Strange, Tyquan Thornton, and Bailey Zappi were able to sign those deals, is because of what David Andrews did. Now, in order to operate throughout the rest of the year, the Patriots will probably make some salary cap clearing moves. And our good friend, Miguel Benzon, the Pats cap himself, will be joining us here shortly on Locked On Patriots within the coming days. And he's going to go over all you need to know about Foxborough Finance. But according to Miguel, as I live and breathe and sit here today and broadcast to you exactly what the Patriots salary cap situation is, my good friend Miguel has them right now at $359,634 under the cap. The Patriots added $217,354 in additional cap flexibility as a result of Andrews' deal. That accounts for Andrews' restructure as well as the signing of the 3 draft picks. Patriots right now in okay cap situation, but not really great. And in order for them to be able to operate throughout the year, they're going to clear some of that cap space. And again, Miguel will join us here shortly on Locked On Patriots to go over all of that. You definitely want to hear it from him, folks. You don't want to be taking financial advice when it comes to a football standpoint. You don't want to be hearing, that from me. He is the best in the business at football contracts, and I always acquiesce to whatever the man says, and truly one of the great guys in this business. And I know you all love Miguel too, so stay tuned. Keep a sharp eye, as I like to say, on Locked On Patriots, and we'll definitely let you know when Miguel will be gracing our airwaves here on the pod. But now that David Andrews has made his signing, now that he's made his restructure, I should say, and the rookies are now in the fold, we take a look as training camp is about to begin and take a look back at what the best offseason moves were for the Patriots. We're going to break down the draft a little bit later in the term, but I thought today we would take the pod home in style by breaking down what I feel to be the 3 most significant moves for the Patriots when it comes to offseason moves and bringing in new personnel. A couple of trades are on this list, and of course, a big free agent signing. Which did I select as the top 3, and do you agree? We'll go over that in just a moment when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining me here on this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast. Please remember that Locked On Patriots is always free and available on all platforms. And in the previous segment, we talked a lot about David Andrews restructuring his contract so the Patriots could sign their complete 2022 draft class. And all of those players are now under contract. But it wasn't just the draftees that the Patriots brought in. They also brought in some new faces, a couple by trade, some by free agency. And as training camp approaches, we're still a couple of weeks away from the actual practices on the field starting, but we look back at the offseason and we take a look at what the significant moves were for the Patriots and which moves do you feel have the chance to be the best moves for the Patriots, which are going to move this team forward, which are the ones that are going to be those moves that we look back on and say, that helped New England in 2022 and possibly even beyond. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I sat down and I discussed this with my colleagues over at Sports Illustrated, and today I wanted to share those with you, my 3 top off-season moves bringing in Patriots new personnel. And I start off with the acquisition of Mack Wilson at the linebacker position. And I know it came at the expense of trading for a fan favorite, someone I very much enjoyed covering up here in New England. Some I know that you were hoping was going to be able to live up to the expectation when they drafted him a few years ago, and that's Chase Winovich. But I believe that Mack Wilson coming in here is a better fit, logistical fit for the New England Patriots. And Wilson comes in with some pedigree. He's not someone that's coming in with absolutely no opportunity for growth, but he's also not coming in with someone with a blank resume either. Fifth round selection by the Browns in 2019. He played 14 games in his rookie season with the Browns, had 82 total tackles, four of which came for a loss, seven passes defensed, one forced fumble, one sack, one interception. Became a starter that year for his efforts. And really, I think his first year as a pro, that is pretty impressive, no matter which team you're on, to start as a rookie and be relied upon as a rookie as a key member of your defensive class. That's definitely something to hang your hat on. So Mack already came out with a little bit of swagger and a little bit of pedigree, but his playing time steadily began to dip over the past couple of seasons. Went from 88% in 2019 to 43% in 2020, down to 21% last year. And in 2021, Mack was really just more of a rotational off the ball role linebacker. He played a regular role on special teams, maintained that throughout his decline, but at the same time, that reduction in playing time definitely was palpable. You could see it. When he was on the field, he did make the most of it. He earned a career best 75.3 overall grade from Pro Football Focus in just 193 defensive snaps. So when he was on the field, he was effective. You have to wonder if it was just scheme fit in New England and in Cleveland. Probably a little bit of both, maybe just a little bit of fish out of water when it came to that. But when he was on the field, he was indeed effective. There's also the question of injury concerns. And I know some of you are probably yelling that at the device you're listening to right now and saying it's injury with this guy. Yes, there is an injury history. There's no question about it. Each of the last two seasons, he's missed at least 3 games throughout the year. Ongoing knee injury, which he suffered in 2020. And then during the 2021 preseason, dealt with a shoulder injury as well. So there's some uncertainty there when it comes to Mack Wilson. But here's why I really like the upside that he brings to the table. The Patriots want to get younger. They want to get faster at the linebacker position. He's clearly going to help them do both youth and speed. Projects, I think, best as an inside linebacker in this system. I think he's going to end up playing more off the ball roles, but I also think he's going to face some notable competition in that regard. And the speed and the athleticism that he has will help him to be an asset. The Patriots are looking to infuse that youth into the linebacking core. And I think Mack Wilson is a good fit. I think logistically, he plays a little bit more in the style that the New England Patriots are looking to switch to, maybe better than Chase Winovich could have. So I like the addition of Mack Wilson. He's being used well in minicamp, also in OTA. I look for that to continue in training camp. So folks, keep a sharp eye on Mack Wilson this year. Take a look at what he's able to do in training camp, and see if it can mimic what he did in minicamp. If that is indeed the case, I think this could be a trade that people will look back on and say, great move for the Patriots, and it really helped to move them forward. The second most important move, or the second biggest impact move that I think the Patriots made this offseason, was staying on the defense, and that's safety Jabril Peppers. I loved this move from the moment the Patriots made it. You've heard my good friend, the legendary Thomas Murphy himself, come on these airwaves and talk about how much he loved this move as well. And while a lot of people may not look at this as a blockbuster move, I get it, I understand. I think it has the chance to maybe be the most impactful move the Patriots made this offseason. He was a first-round selection by the Browns, 25 overall in the 2017 draft. So Peppers came into this league expected to be a star. Played for Michigan, so he definitely knows his way around a defense. Appeared in 29 games for the Browns throughout his first 2 years. Started all 29 of those games. Great amount of durability here. 137 total tackles, 6 came for a loss, 8 passes defensed, 2 interceptions. 2019 comes around. Jabril Peppers is a part of the infamous Odell Beckham Jr. trade. He goes off to the New York Giants, and he continues to climb. Peppers spent 3 seasons with Big Blue, 32 games, 196 total tackles, 15 of those came for a loss, 17 passes defensed, 3.5 sacks coming from the safety position, also 4 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions. Unfortunately, last year was not a good year for Jabril Peppers health-wise, suffering season-ending ACL in October. That ended his season. And unfortunately, I think it was one of the factors in Jabril having difficulty finding a home this year back with New York. But I don't think it's a surprise that the Patriots were interested in his services, not just because he's coming off of injury, and a lot of people think the Patriots like the sharp bargain basement. Trust me, there is nothing bargain basement about what Jabril Peppers brings to the table. Over the course of his 5-year career, he's aligned all over the defense, and this is why the Patriots like him, folks. Box safety, free safety, perimeter corner, slot corner, hybrid linebacker, even seen him take some snaps on the defensive line. You've heard me talk about another guy that's able to do that, a premier box safety that can be employed all over the defense, and that's my man Adrian Phillips. There's a lot of synergy between these two guys, and you pair him, all of a sudden, you pair him with Phillips, meaning Peppers, and you throw Kyle Duggar into the mix. That's about as solid of a box safety trio as you'll find in the NFL. Maybe the deepest positional depth chart that the Patriots have on this roster right now. I love Peppers' addition to this team, and not just because of what he can do on the field on defense. He's also got plenty of experience on special teams. Patriots love that, folks. You know that. 117 career total returns, both punt and kick returns. And basically, I think in a lot of ways, what Peppers brings to the table just really hammers home exactly what the Pats are looking for. Versatility and the ability to play all over the field. I love this move, and I think it has a chance to be a very, very big impact move for the New England Patriots. So a couple of defensive moves that I believe were in the top 3. But the first and top move that the Patriots made in the offseason, in my opinion, folks, comes from the offense, and that is trading for DeVante Parker. Look, Parker may not be the gigantic name that everyone was hoping was going to walk through the door and be your wide receiver 1, but this guy can be a top option at the position. An intra-divisional trade is something that is extremely rare in the NFL, especially when it comes to the New England Patriots. But the Pats wanted the opportunity to get a veteran outside receiver at a reasonable price. And guess what? DeVante Parker checks both of those boxes. They gain they gain a vertical presence on the perimeter. He's capable of winning his matchups both on the outside and downfield. Good size for the position, 6'3", 219. Size, the speed to instantly make an impact on the Patriots' passing offense, gives them a different dimension that they didn't have last season. And all of the work that Mac Jones has been putting in the offseason, I think you're going to see DeVante Parker on the receiving end of a lot of that. Pretty good stats in Miami. There's no question about it. Alan Popar, who writes for All Dolphins of Fan Nation of Sports Illustrated, covers the Dolphins for a number of years, definitely told me that when healthy and when he's locked in, Parker is a bona fide star at this position, and I believe him wholeheartedly. 93 games out of a possible 113 with the Dolphins, 338 receptions, 4,727 yards, 24 touchdowns. Most productive season came in 2019, compiled 72 catches on 128 targets for 1,202 yards and 9 touchdowns. One of the things that I think the Patriots are going to love most about DeVante is his ability to gain yards after the catch. We talk about yak all the time. Murph, I know you're listening. You're going yak, yak, yak right now. Absolutely. The Patriots needed someone that can do that, and this guy definitely does it. He's finished in 2021. He finished the season with 40 catches, 515 yards, 2 touchdowns, and in a lot of ways, a lot of what he did was done after the catch. Excellent opportunity for the Patriots to really take advantage of this. He's averaged 14 yards per reception throughout his career, never averaged fewer than 11 yards per reception in any of his in any of his 7 seasons in the league. Versatility is just really likely to make him one of Mac Jones' top targets this year. And bringing it all full circle, when we talked about Nikhil Harry to open up this show, you want to do a like for like. You're essentially swapping out Nikhil Harry for DeVante Parker. Even the most ardent defender of Nikhil Harry has to admit that is a serious upgrade for the New England Patriots. So I look for DeVante Parker to give Mac Jones that viable red zone target at the receiver position and the guy who's able to gain yards after the catch, something that Mac absolutely loves in his receivers, but also provide a valid presence on the perimeter. And that's something that the Patriots have not had in quite some time. They've got one now in DeVante Parker. Eventually, they'll have that speedster threat in Tyquan Thornton. I think it's going to take him at least a year or two to be able to acclimate himself. But once he does, that kid's going to be something to watch as well. But for right now, I give the top acquisition that the Patriots made in the offseason to DeVante Parker. I know a lot of you are probably surprised that Malcolm Butler's name was not on that list. It really, really took a lot from me to go with Mac Wilson over Malcolm Butler. I just think that Wilson's going to be here a little bit longer, which is why I picked him. But I may have made a mistake. If I did, definitely let me know about it. I would love to hear your thoughts on what you believe is the Patriots' top acquisition or top offseason move. Is it Malcolm Butler, or do you agree with one of the three that I've chosen? Drop us a line here on Locked On Patriots, comment on YouTube, or send us a message at LO_Patriots on Twitter. And you can always find Locked On Patriots each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network by downloading, subscribing to, and following the Locked On Patriots podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, thank you so much for taking the time to make Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. And now that you've made us your first listen every day, make your second listen the folks over at Locked On NFL. All the big Locked On NFL stories are being covered. Baker Mayfield is on his way to Carolina. A lot to discuss when it comes to that and all of the top stories throughout the NFL covered on Locked On NFL. Once again, they are free and available on all platforms, and subscribe to them on YouTube. Until tomorrow, Foxborough faithful, thank you once again. Continue to stay safe, stay well, be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone.